it did feel like hard, so that maybe means it's good. I don't know. I'll have to wait till I hear it again because Marcy and I, not only do we not know what we're going to say, we never remember what we said. And then like a week later, we'll listen again and we don't remember like a moment after. It's so weird.
No, it really is kind of a holy amnesia. Welcome to the second season of the Laughing.Mystics, an unorthodox journey through the liturgical year with Laura Lewis-Barr and Marcy Mederi.
So it's the fourth Sunday in extraordinary time. All right, so I have a question. This early year readings are killing me. They're really, really challenging. And I spent the morning praying and studying and thinking and reading and searching. It was not an easy morning, and, well, I'll talk more about it. Marcy, you're going to love this question.
Oh, dear.
What shadow do I have that accompanies my good works? When I do good works, what shadow do I have to watch out for?
Oh, that's easy.
Oh, okay, good.
Because I've done a lot of work on this, is telling everybody about it. So I do something good, and then I toot my own horn incessantly, and not directly, indirectly. Like I'll just kind of like name dropping, but only good work dropping. And because if I'm not careful, it overinflates my sense of self. My ego puffs right up because I feel like such a good person.
Great example of the danger of that shadow thing of pride. I think for me, it's resentment. I think I'm always aware that I have to be careful because I can be very prone to the shoulds and get stuck in shoulds, and then that resentment will just kick me in the butt. And it sort of reminds me of dieting. Like, I don't diet because if I do, that binge is just waiting for me on the other side of the diet. I just know that. And the resentment, I think, is the same. Yeah.
So you feel resentful for feeling like you had to do it?
I think so.
You're feeling resentful for the guilt that you experienced that motivated you to do it? How am I? Is that close?
No, I think the former. Like, I feel resentful maybe toward the person I did it for, and I'm always careful regarding that. Yeah. This is going to figure in a lot of my thoughts on today's readings.
Okay.
Okay, the first reading is from Zephaniah. Seek the Lord, all you humble of the earth, who have observed his law. Seek justice, seek humility. Perhaps you may be sheltered on the day of the Lord's anger. But I will leave as a remnant in your midst a people humble and lowly, who shall take refuge in the name of the Lord, the remnant of Israel. They shall do no wrong and speak no lies, nor shall there be found in their mouths a deceitful tongue. They shall pasture and couch their flocks with none to disturb them.
I just think that's so beautiful. Tell me what's challenging about that for you.
Oh, this one maybe isn't as challenging as some that are coming. No, it really is beautiful. It's very dreamlike.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of shifting of points of view. But I'll let you talk first.
Well, this for me feels like a recipe for how to live a good life.
Okay.
To be humble and even, and observe the law. When I teach the 10 Commandments to teenagers, I tell them, don't think about them as restrictions. Think about them as the recipe for how to live an easier life.
Yes, that's a good,
right? So to live a good life, if I'm in line with God's laws, if I'm loving other people and not speaking falsely and not killing people, literally and metaphorically, I have a better life. So to seek justice and humility, to embrace the smallness of me, not that I am insignificant or that my life doesn't have meaning, but that in the grand scheme of things, especially when I stand next to God, yes, to notice that I am small.
Yeah.
And not in a self-deprecating way, but just, even looking at time and the evolution of time, and all the people on this earth and how short my life is.
Yeah. And you're talking about small because of the word humble.
Humble and lowly.
Got it. Well, I have a lot of thoughts. First, the first paragraph, if you do these things, if you're humble and you seek justice, perhaps you may be sheltered. You thought I was going to skip that one? No.
I just read right over that.
Perhaps you may be sheltered. And so this wrathful God, and I go, what is that in my life today? Because I don't believe in that. And so, but I do believe in a kind of psychological, we could use the word karma. It's not a great word for me either, but a psychological reckoning that I was just reading a Jungian this weekend, and he's like, you can deny all you want. You can suppress. You can hide it. It's going to get you in the end. It's going to come. And so that's how I see it. Like, perhaps you're going to not have to pay a big price for psychological sins. That's how I see that. But then it's interesting because we've got, I assume it's Zephaniah who's talking, but then Zephaniah goes into like a trance and he starts speaking from God, which is really interesting. So the I isn't Zephaniah. It is God saying there's going to be a small remnant that survives my cleaning things up. Is that how you read it?
Yes. And that's kind of a pretty common, trope for a prophet of the Old Testament to say, change your ways or God will wipe you out or will just even lift the protection that God has offered you and that there'll be just a small group of you left. I think it's to kind of like motivate people to behave well.
But if we think about it as the inner state, there's a catastrophe that comes and kind of destroys the old persona, the old way of being, and there's a little remnant of me left, and that hopefully that remnant is purified and doesn't have as much lying, deceit, and that is more aligned with the higher self.
I like that. But yeah, what comes to me is the act of pruning.
Yes.
To cut a shrub or a bush way down.
Yeah, and we are sometimes that tree in that bush.
Yes, we are. And then, but then new life does come. It does happen. Growth happens.
From the remnant.
From the remnant.
Really interesting. And that the remnant that remains is more healthy people. So this is what I hear the reading saying. Hey, seek the good, or
Or else.
or the inner change will happen in a way that isn't. A famous Jung quote is, if you don't do the work, fate is going to find you, and you're going to have that thing happen that's going to cause you to do the work. It's the same principle. And that's this reading.
Well, I think about, right, the most difficult moment of my life thus far is when my first husband died. I know you've talked about that in your early 20s, that pain of separation. And for both of us, it cut us to the quick. I mean,
yes,
we were laid low. And, I can speak from my experience and from witnessing, Laura, we both took that opportunity to grow into the people we are today with more love and more compassion and more understanding.
Yeah.
And I do wonder, would I have done that work? Certainly not as thoroughly as I did without my personal tragedy. I can't speak for you, Laura, but like there is something to that.
Oh, for sure. And what I love about it, as you bring us to our own lives, is that the remnant of our souls remains. We're not completely destroyed. We have a piece of us, and often, I'm guessing for both of us, that piece sort of clings to the divine.
Yes.
Because there's not a lot left of the old structure.
Right. That question that I had to face at 40 is, who am I? Who am I as a single person? And what does that mean? And who do I want that to be?
Yeah, that remnant. Yeah. You were humble and lowly.
Well, because I didn't have a choice.
Exactly.
I didn't have a choice. So I like that Jungian quote, like life will take care of it.
But it's better if we can take care of it ourselves, become more conscious, or it'll be knocked into me.
Yes. There is this piece about, right, that remnant shall do no wrong and speak no lies, and there shall be found in their mouth, nor shall there be found in mouth a deceitful tongue. So next week, because I read ahead, Isaiah also talks about this. I just am struck by how we as a human kind, as humans, we're still doing this craziness. We're still speaking in deceitful tongues. We're still lying. I mean, it's such a common human issue, individually and societally.
Yeah, and I think as somebody who is devoted to this Jungian way of looking at things, the deepest lie is the lie we tell ourselves about ourselves. And so it's rare that we're not lying to ourselves. And that's the whole nature of the idea of the shadow, which is a big theme for me today, as it started with that question.
Right. And that collective lie, because this is being addressed to a people. And so, what are the collective lies that we tell ourselves as a nation?
Wow. Or as a subgroup, as a political group. And I know for myself, as an artist or as a podcaster, whenever I try to speak to something that feels like a lie in the culture, I am pretty terrified. It's not easy to say, hey, I think this is a lie we're telling ourselves as a group.
Right. Well, sometimes people get upset by those things.
I know. Yeah,
I mean, and that we're just here, use this one as an example, that as a child, I grew up with the understanding that the United States was the best country in the world, bar none, the best, and that we were always right, we were always on the side of good, and manifest destiny was fantastic. So that's that big lie, I think, that like as a people we told ourselves. And
Yeah.
that we're starting to unpack. And that some people don't like that being unpacked.
It's so painful when a lie that feels good gets
Mhm.
punctured like that.
Mhm.
And yeah, and only a remnant remains. After that, I know when my views about what God was or what religion was, when those things got punctured, only a remnant remained
Mhm.
where I had to start over. So, yeah, it's hard.
Yes. Yes, it is. It is hard. And it's hard to hold the complicated truth without, how do I say it? Like sinking my whole boat, without having the guilt of it overwhelm me. And then I can't look at it anymore. And so then I just shove it away.
Yeah, that's really deep. That's very deep work. And I
Mhm.
think, in this reading, a people humble and lowly who shall take refuge in the name of the Lord, that phrase is maybe a way to talk about how to handle those moments that you're talking about when I'm reduced to the remnant and I don't even know what I believe anymore because I opened myself up to the mystery, the paradox, the contradiction, and I'm confused and lost
Mhm.
because the lie is simple. Like you said, the
Right.
other is really complicated.
Yeah. I find this to be the work of adults, right? Children need
Yes.
simplicity, for security, for strength, for growing. And then at a certain point, in adolescence, we kind of push up against it, but we still need it. And then, even people in their 20s have their own stuff they've got to figure out. So really, once we get into our 30s, to unpack that, to do that big work, what are the lies I'm telling myself? And what are the big lies that I'm a part of?
Right. And I think about the simplicity of Christian teaching of children
Mm-hmm.
and how it's a mythic truth, but then if as an adult I don't grapple with it in a way to bring it beyond the literal, then it becomes a lie.
Yes. And thank you, because I tell people all the time, confirmation is not graduation from religious education and faith formation. That is our whole life. Sorry.
No, that's
I
good.
slipped into church worker there. Like, yeah, right. But it's true, and how much time and energy do people devote towards their faith growth? Some a lot, some medium, and some a little, and maybe some not at all. But that is that invitation to always grow spiritually.
I think, yeah, if we dig into the readings, that's what we find.
Oh, readings. We're supposed to be talking about readings, aren't we? So this is a reading from the first letter of St. Paul to the Corinthians. And this 1 Corinthians we've heard from 2 weeks in a row. We'll hear from it this week as well as next week. Consider your own calling, sisters and brothers. Not many of you were wise by human standards. Not many were powerful. Not many were of noble birth. Rather, God chose the foolish of the world to shame the wise. And God chose the weak of the world to shame the strong. And God chose the lowly and despised of the world, those who count for nothing, to reduce to nothing those that are something, so that no human might boast before God. It is due to him that you are in Christ, and who became for us wisdom from God, as well as righteousness sanctification, redemption, so that, as it is written, whoever boasts should boast in the Lord.
What do you say?
A great big mirror telling me, I'm nothing, and that's why God picked me. Okay, here I am. Corinthians, the people in Corinth were feeling pretty good about themselves, and there was an issue with pride in the Christian community. And so Paul's just reminding people, you're really not all that and more, except that God loves you.
When I read this, I hear the alchemists of the medieval Christian world who were doing chemistry experiments, and it was a metaphor for their inner work, their psychological inner work, and it generally started with, as I've mentioned before, like a piece of nothing is going to become the gold eventually. Piece of crap is going to be elevated. And so what I love about this reading is it, as a lot of these readings do, it's making an inverse of what the world values. To be wise, to be strong, to be, famous, to be all the things that we love in the world are not what is ultimately going to bring us to the kingdom. And I find it intellectually, I can grasp it, but I'm acculturated to want to be wise and with it and, successful and all the things that I've coached myself to do and be my whole life, and to really embrace, as Lewis Hyde and his book, The Gift, is helping me embrace, like, it's really not about being successful. It's about giving the gift. And that's huge for me.
Right. Well, and what does success mean? What does success look like? And so many times it's how big is my house and how fancy is my car and how busy am I, right? The busier for some people, it's the more successful I am. That's a real trap.
Yeah, and it's interesting to hear you make those things because I guess we all have different ones. And like what traps me is the successful piece. That's one of them, but the car and the house and the other isn't. So it's really interesting to notice what traps me.
So how would you say your seductive successfulness looks like?
Yeah, I just have always wanted to play a big game in theater, film, podcasting, whatever I do, don't call it a hobby. I'm serious. And so to shift away and go, it's about the gift. It's not about this outward successful thing. I might never be seen or noticed, and that's okay. That's the shift from, I was with family over Christmas and we were talking about my films, and this family member said, so do you make any money from them? And that's a worldly question.
It is
Why
a worldly
do it
question.
if you don't?
Yes.
Why do anything unless it checks a certain box for beauty or popularity or how we judge things, and the people that we judge that haven't done those things. And I love that he's saying, you're not wise, you're stupid, you're weak.
You're nothing. You came from nothing.
Yeah. And that I think I judge, unconsciously. I don't let myself think about it, but I must judge for lack of success. I mean, if I'm judging myself for it, so I'm imagining we all do it. But if someone judges my house, I don't care. We had two architects over recently, and I know they judged my house, but that's okay.
Well, and that the goodness, as you said with the gift, the goodness that I am, I believe, comes from God. The goodness that I share is that love that originates in God's heart. And that's what it's about for me. Somebody did, I mean, like, yes, I can get tempted with all the trappings and stuff. But someone did ask recently, do you get paid for that podcast?
Right.
I said, nope. We do it because we believe it is an important gift for the world.
Right. It's such a great example of, I think, this reading and how to be countercultural in the world, how to do something that everyone goes, what? Just do something for the love of it, and do something that makes no sense in terms of, financial success or any of the other measures that we have. And that's what Paul is saying here, that everything is the opposite of what you thought. God chose the foolish of the world to shame the wise.
I just smiled very big when Laura said, do something that doesn't make sense, right? Do something because you love it. Do something because you know that it's a good thing to do. And what a different world it would be if we did that even, 10% of the time.
It's true. But it's taken me decades to get to that place. The Gospel is according to Matthew. When Jesus saw the crowds, he went up the mountain, and after he had sat down, his disciples came to him. He began to teach them, saying,
Blessed are the poor in spirit,
for theirs is the kingdom of heaven.
Blessed are they who mourn,
for they will be comforted.
Blessed are the meek,
for they will inherit the land.
Blessed are they who hunger and thirst for righteousness,
for they shall be satisfied.
Blessed are the merciful,
for they will be shown mercy.
Blessed are the clean of heart,
for they will see God.
Blessed are the peacemakers,
for they will be called children of God.
Blessed are they who are persecuted for the sake of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when they insult you and persecute you and utter every kind of evil against you falsely because of me.
Rejoice and be glad, for your reward will be great in heaven.
So this is the beginning of Sermon on the Mount, Matthew 5, and it's similar to the Gospel of Luke, but that's Sermon on the Plain. If you notice, Jesus saw the crowds and he went up the mountain. So Jesus goes to Mount Sinai. What happens at Mount Sinai in the Old Testament? That's where Moses got the 10 Commandments. So Matthew is putting Jesus right there to say these are the new commandments.
Nice.
So just and these are a lot more nuanced, than the Old Commandments or the 10 Commandments of the Old Testament. Do not do this, do not do that. Okay, check. So these have a very different feel.
So when I read this gospel, my reaction was to be concerned about the programming I've had in my early life and thinking about friends of mine who have left the church. They weren't Catholic, but kind of damaged by what happens for me when I read readings like this, which is to be meek is to mean I don't speak up for myself, and it's sort of these shoulds, and I felt a lot of sadness when I read it because of that. And I went to thinking about how to talk about, well, how to talk about the danger of that kind of thinking from a psychological point of view. And I found a wonderful write up, and I think it was related to the Catholic Reporter.
Mm.
It was a blog post. And in it, the person who, I'll put this in the show notes, says that St. Augustine wrote a commentary on the Beatitudes.
All right, say more.
And I saw two sites about St. Augustine going inwardly with the Beatitudes, more as an inward practice to show that I'm achieving the kingdom, or achieving is the wrong word, but that I come into the kingdom. So I'll give you an example of what she writes here. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. The Greek word for meek has a twofold meaning strong as iron, yet gentle as a feather. Jesus describes meekness as being wise as serpents and gentle as doves. St. Francis de Sales says meekness, there is nothing as strong as true meekness, nothing as gentle as true strength. One who is truly meek will possess the earth. If you are not meek, it will possess you. And then they go on, and I read this in two places. St. Augustine notes that the earth refers to a sort of groundedness, that I will inherit a groundedness.
That is so cool. Wow.
Yeah, so for all of these, I wonder if we could tackle them from a more inner place that I think is for me, it's a lot more useful. And I think poor in spirit, what would you say about that?
I take it back to our conversation on the first reading that I've right-sized my ego. The poor in spirit, that my ego isn't overinflated.
Yeah, humility. I'm not sure. Maybe it's just the English translation, because it strikes me as an ironic phrase to be poor in spirit, but read as humility, that works for me.
I also read this for myself generally as Jesus isn't necessarily saying, go be poor in spirit. But if you are poor in spirit, you are blessed. Like, don't go searching for sadness, to mourn. But if you are mourning, then you will be comforted.
Good. That's wonderful. And I think what I read is this idea of mourning. What am I mourning? If I am seeking God, then there is a sadness because a part of me is not seeking. And there is a gap between my desire and my lack of desire. And if I'm in touch with the truth of myself, there's going to be some sadness there. So it could just be, I'm sad because any number of horrible things happened to me. But if we're only looking in the moment at the psychological movement toward God, then blessed are those, it goes toward another one we're going to read. So blessed are the meek, the ones who know what true strength is, the ones who are grounded, the ones who...
I love this.
Yeah, because, otherwise it sets me up for a bad codependent kind of way of being. Hunger and thirst for righteousness reminds me of what I was talking about, mourning. It's like that hunger is a blessing.
I'm just going to interrupt this with a little story. Not too long ago, I was talking to someone who knows me and loves me, right? And this came from a heart of love. And this person said, Marcy, I know how much the ICE thing and people being deported and detained hurts you. And I pray for you all the time that you have peace. I said, please do not pray for me. Pray for the people. pray for those being detained and also pray for the ICE agents. But pray for them. And afterwards, I reflected and I thought, I don't want peace in my heart around this issue.
Yeah.
I am grateful for feeling agitated. I'm grateful for being disturbed. It made me think, this reading made me think of that moment when it's those who hunger and thirst for righteousness.
Yeah. It's a great example. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy is a complete, psychological truth. What about clean of heart? What could we say about that one?
I think of it as honesty. When I have a clean conscience, that clean of heart, when I'm living with integrity, that's where I go with it.
Okay.
You're thinking.
Yeah, I'm trying to process a lot of this because let's jump to blessed are those persecuted for the sake of righteousness. I think it's a tricky thing for me to talk about that. Jung was very, very clear, and I think there are numerous examples in the world of how seeking to be good creates shadow. And that was the question I started with. And so, I was uncomfortable. Oh, now we're getting into some, between Marcy and I talking about our own stuff. I was
a confessional moment.
I was uncomfortable with the Christmas blessing that you read. I was really uncomfortable with it because to me, well, number one, it was all these shoulds for me that I felt overwhelmed by. One of them would have been enough, but it kept going and going and going and going. And so now let's go back to your other comment about you want to be agitated. And okay, but I don't want to be agitated all the time. I don't want to feel guilty all the time because there's always stuff I could be doing. So there's two things. Let's start with that one. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm not sure that we're talking about the same thing when you're talking about your guilt and I'm talking about agitation, because I think guilt can make me feel stuck and overwhelmed. That agitation can be motivating, a restlessness, I need to be a voice. And that even if it's just my voice is my prayer.
Yeah. And so whatever agitates us is very personal. I was immediately agitated by what happened in Ukraine in a way that not everything agitates me. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's because my ancestors come from that area and that just hooked me. I don't know. So I can be agitated and that does motivate me to pray. Mm-hmm. But when I get a list of all these things I could be doing, then I go into guilt because I can't do it all. I'll resent if I do it all. And so that was the first part of the danger for me of trying to be good, quote, trying to be good. I'm overwhelmed. But this psychological reality that we started this episode with, that if I'm not careful, trying to be good is going to create pride in me or resentment in me or martyrdom in me, or what are the other things, the shadow side of trying to be good. And I just have to bring that up because I think we could dig and find it's the psychological underpinning of a lot of the problems of the church, of the world. This is what Jung said that I think is just fundamental. And when I came to these readings and I felt all this stuff, I thought, oh crap, I don't want to say this, but I have to because it is kind of a fundamental understanding for me of how I'm going to get to a healthy place with God and with others.
So what did Jung say?
Jung said many times in many places that the desire to be good,
The desire to be good. Okay. Yep.
or another way he put it a lot was, the brighter the light, the deeper the darkness.
Right. Right. And I misunderstood your question at the beginning as opposed to my desire to be good. I took it as when I do good things.
I think, well, that's probably how I asked it, but I don't see those as different.
But I can do good things because it gives me joy and it doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
So that's still doing good. And right. And it's something that doesn't make sense and I'm not making any money from it.
I think the point, and I think these readings can go into them too sometimes, is that we have to be conscious of the shadow side that we have.
True.
Because if we're not, it can really cause destruction in our world on a micro or a macro level.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what destroys the world, are these tiny little decisions that are unconscious.
Yes. Yes. Being aware of our shadow, I think is really important.
That's a great summary.
And I think for me, it's also recognizing that God made me good. I don't have to try to be good. I just have to be myself.
Okay.
And that God has created all living things in goodness and love. And so if I just am my true authentic self, I am automatically good.
Spoken as a Jungian. I mean, but
I would say Franciscan, but maybe it's the same thing.
Well, his whole idea was to become ourselves. And so if I'm truly myself, goodness can come forward in a not contaminated way.
Mm-hmm.
But when I'm trying to be good in a way that some programming tells me I need to, and I lose sense of who I really am, that's when the damage really happens. Yes, I think you did brilliant at recognizing that it's the trying that can be the problem as opposed to what naturally wants to come forward.
Right, right. And to pay attention to God speaking within me, right? And we can call that intuition or following our passion. We can name it any number of things, but paying attention to what gives me joy, which is God's voice, and acting on it, not letting that get muted or tamped down, but letting that go and celebrating that, like this podcast that gives me much joy.
Right. And so we come back to, blessed are those who are persecuted for the sake of righteousness. Well, if I'm persecuted because I am who I am, that is a blessing. That I can really embrace that. Not, I'm going to become a martyr so that I get some blessing out there in the world.
Right, right. And again, if I read this as when I am persecuted, I'm blessed. Do not seek persecution.
But what are we persecuted for?
Right.
I think is part of, it's important.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And being myself, standing up for myself, there's plenty of persecution for that. I mean, it starts at age 12. We get persecuted for that and forced to conform. And so some of that adult work is letting loose that inner child that's been bound up and letting her be free, whatever happens with that.
Right. Okay.
Oofta.
That was a...
Rejoice and be glad. Whew.
Yeah. There's so much here. We could just spend a long, long time, but I will put things in the show notes and want to really thank you for hanging with us today.
This is so good.
It did feel hard, so that maybe means it's good. I don't know. I'll have to wait till I hear it again because Marcy and I, not only do we not know what we're going to say, We never remember what we said. and then like a week later, we'll listen again and we don't remember like a moment after. It's so weird.
No, it really is kind of a holy amnesia that God, the Spirit, takes it and does crazy things. I was in the car with my husband. We were listening to this podcast, and my husband asked me the same question, is this boring? I'm like, no, because I don't know what's coming next.
Wow.
And thank you, Laura, for all your work with the podcast. Laura does all the behind the scenes and editing to make us sound like we know what we're talking about. So nice job, Laura. Thank you.
It's really fun for me, and I'm very careful to only do so much so I don't get resentful. I'm really dedicated to not crossing into that bad land. But thank you all, and please, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do, and share this podcast. Those are my 2 requests. Share the podcast and do something else for the podcast. We appreciate it so much.
We sure do. Until next time.